Millie Weaver reporting for Infowars.com. Well, Donald Trump has been a very busy man on Twitter this week, so let's get right to it and see Donald Trump's most epic tweets of the week. Intelligence stated very strongly there was absolutely no evidence that hacking affected the election results. Voting machines not touched. This is a very important point that Donald is making here, because the voting machines weren't touched. So how can you say that therefore the election results were skewed or tampered with by hackers? It's just not true. Now, these claims that hackers interfered are based on the hackings that happened with the DNC and their emails, as well as what happened with Hillary Clinton's emails. But if there weren't content in these emails that the American public saw as damning and, very unethical, then there wouldn't have been any problem or any effect. It was the fact that these politicians were exposed and their true characters were shown. And the American people did get the opportunity to see that, and they voted based on their opinion of the all-around situation. So it wasn't exactly a hacking of any sort, because people went out and tried to release damning information on Donald Trump as well at the same time during the election. So it's just the nature of campaigning and a bunch of sorry losers. And, what's next? I mean, come on, the left is just coming up with anything they can constantly to try and make it, so that Donald Trump's not the president. Well, good luck, because that's not going to happen. He's going to be the president, and we're only days away. Before I or anyone saw the classified and or highly confidential hacking intelligence report, it was leaked out to NBC News. So serious. Well, there's obviously a major problem that we're seeing with politicians sharing or leaking classified information, just like we saw with Hillary Clinton, how she was, basically sending classified information over a private server that was not secured, basically sharing this information with other people and anyone who could hack her email. I mean, this is just a problem we're seeing in a blatant disrespect, and I'm assuming a lot of this comes from the left because we've been seeing this repeatedly from that era, and it is against the law, so he's making a good point here. Good tweet, Trump. Meryl Streep, one of the most overrated actresses in Hollywood, doesn't know me, but attacked me last night at the Golden Globes.
The person asking to sit in the most respected seat in our country imitated a disabled reporter.
She is a Hillary flunky who lost big. For the 100th time, I never mocked a disabled reporter. Would never do that. But simply showed him groveling when he totally changed a 16-year-old story that he had written in order to make me look bad.
Written by a nice reporter. Now the poor guy, you gotta see this guy. Oh, I don't know what I said. I don't remember. He's going like, I don't remember. I thought, oh, maybe that's what I said. This is 14 years ago. They didn't do a retraction.
Just more very dishonest media. Well, Meryl Streep, who really even watches her films anymore? But nonetheless, more of these Hollywood cronies and sellouts coming out trying to speak out against Donald Trump based on false information. She doesn't really even know what she's talking about. I highly doubt that she actually researched that claim. She probably just heard it from the fake news MSM. And as far as this claim that he mocked a disabled reporter, well, it's just simply not true. If you actually were to take a minute to look around out there, you would see that Donald Trump has done the same exact, voice, little act or gesture when he's talking about somebody doing something silly or that he disagrees with.
At this point, it's rather circumstantial. They'll be looking for more evidence, such as some witness accounts, perhaps further video.
When you see the president of the bank, I mentioned the word regulator. These guys come in, they run the banks. And I watched a general recently on television, and they said to him, what do you think about ISIS? Oh, ISIS is very tough. They said, Senator Cruz, what do you think of waterboarding? I don't want to talk about it. He didn't want to talk about waterboarding.
He's done it with so many different people. that aren't disabled, or Ted Cruz and so on and so forth. So the fact that they're trying to say, oh, he was just making fun of him based on a disability, it's just not true. And Meryl Streep, I mean, get over it. Stop trying to just jump on the bandwagon with all these Hollywood people talking bad on Donald Trump. Good tweet, Trump. I really like it. I win an election easily. A great movement is verified. And crooked opponents try to belittle our victory with fake news. A sorry state. Well, it's true. The MSM, the left, all these crybabies, these SJWs out there just crying it up, having the biggest complaining you've ever seen that Donald Trump won. And you see fake news after fake news. What do we see now? We saw this week the, Golden Gate, where they were claiming that Donald Trump did some really crazy act that was completely unverifiable. I mean, they claimed he paid some prostitutes to pee on a bed. Give me a break. Oh, and because the Obamas slept in the bed once, and that Russia was using this information to blackmail Donald Trump into pretending to like Russia or Putin. Give me a break. It was totally unverified. It was totally inaccurate and not true. And even BuzzFeed, who published it, they even said they didn't have any way of verifying it, and that it was basically not true and fake news. Give me a break. What are you guys going to do next? There's only a couple days until the inauguration, but I guess you're going to keep on trying because that's all you can do, right? So good Trump tweet right there. Intelligence agencies should never have allowed this fake news to leak into the public. One last shot at me. Are we living in Nazi Germany? Well, Donald Trump held a press conference, and his press conference was a great one that was actually about him, handing over responsibility in his business to his sons and putting, it in a trust and whatnot, and pretty much forfeiting that voluntarily to, get away from any misconception of a conflict of interest between his businesses and then his role as the President of the United States. So that was what his conference was about. However, conveniently, they leaked this story that was absolute fake news, the Golden Gate about peeing on, some bed, some prostitutes peeing on a bed right before. So it then became a subject that all the reporters, the fake news reporters in the room had to ask him about.
The tweet that you had this morning about are we living in Nazi Germany, what were you driving at there? What are you trying to tell the
I
American
think it
public?
was disgraceful that the intelligence agencies allowed any information that turned out to be so false and fake out. I think it's a disgrace. And I say that, and that's something that Nazi Germany would have done and did do. I think it's a disgrace.
Since you're attacking us, can you give us a question? Mr. President-elect.
Go ahead.
Mr. President-elect, since you are attacking our news organization, can you give us a chance?
Your organization
You are
is
attacking
terrible.
our news organization.
Your organization
Can you give us a
is
chance
terrible.
to
Let's
ask
go.
a question, sir?
Go ahead.
Sir, can
Quiet.
you state,
Quiet.
Mr. President-elect,
Go ahead.
can you state
She's asking
categorically,
a question.
Mr.
Don't be rude.
President-elect, can you give us a question?
Don't be
You're
rude.
attacking us. Can you give us a question?
Don't be rude.
Can you
No,
give
I'm not
us a
going to give you a
question?
question. I'm not going to give you a question.
Can you state categorically?
You are fake news.
Sir.
And of course, Donald Trump is bringing up Nazi Germany. Are we in Nazi Germany? Well, the reason why he's probably saying this is because propaganda. Nazi Germany had a major problem with propaganda, and the Nazis loved to use propaganda to demonize their political opponents. In 2013, the United States actually legalized propaganda and removed the ban on propaganda. So it's not too far-fetched to say that these MSM, pundits are just basically propagandists at their finest. So good Trump tweet right there. CNN is in a total meltdown with their fake news because their ratings are tanking since election, and their credibility will soon be gone. Are these MSM news outlets just running fake news and sensational headlines in order to try and draw traffic back to their outlet because their ratings have been tanking? Meanwhile, InfoWars and other sites, their ratings have been going through the roof, and the traffic has been picking up as MSM gets caught in fake news time and time and being caught lying, while InfoWars has been being validated for telling the truth and showing people what's really going on. So I do think that we're just going to see their credibility go farther and farther down the drain. So good tweet, Donald Trump. It now turns out that the phony allegations against me were put together by my political opponents and a failed spy afraid of being sued, totally made up facts by sleazebag political operatives by both Democrats and Republicans. Fake news. Russia says nothing exists. Probably released by intelligence, even knowing there is no proof, and never will be. My people will have a full report on hacking within 90 days. Well, this tweet is regarding the fact that this story, this P-Gate story came out, and he's just giving us more input and more details about what's going on behind the scenes on the story, and how Russia even confirmed that it was absolutely false and that the Russians did not spy on Trump and they did not have this information. So the Russians confirmed that, and it's just complete bogus. Not to mention that, you know, John McCain was one of the ones who actually handed this off to the FBI when it was already circulating in Washington, D.C. around the political circles and the politicians. Nobody did anything with it. None of the news sites would touch it. And then, you know, John McCain gets it, hands it off to the FBI. Somehow that then makes it somewhat more valid. I don't know how that's even possible to make it any bit valid, but somehow that makes it more valid. And then the FBI or somebody leaks it, and next thing you know, BuzzFeed picks it up, and CNN's, you know, championing it, and give me a break. How could anybody believe this story? Donald Trump seems very frustrated. He is basically letting everyone know that there's obviously a problem between people that are corrupt in the political circles in DC and the mainstream media having in on it together type conspiracies against him. So I like this tweet from Donald Trump because it's very informative. What are Hillary Clinton's people complaining about with respect to the FBI? Based on the information they had, she should have never been allowed to run. Guilty as hell. They were very nice to her. She lost because she campaigned in the wrong states. No enthusiasm. Why was Hillary Clinton allowed to run for president right after she was under investigation by the FBI for releasing classified information onto a private email server, which basically allowed any hacker with a little bit of skill to know exactly what's going on about top secret information? This is insane. The American people just completely were just like, oh, well, you know, she's a liberal and she's a woman. At least the liberals, that's what they were thinking. But everybody else was like, okay, no way. This lady's a liar and she's scandalous. And why do we got what? Bush, you know, Bushes and Clintons and Bushes, and give me a break. Doing the same thing over and over again is the definition of insanity. So I think that's why the Americans weren't enthusiastic about Hillary Clinton. Good tweet, Donald Trump. The Unaffordable Care Act will soon be history. This tweet actually got 118,000 likes, which is not hard to believe. Americans are not happy with their deductibles or their premiums or their health care plans now that they found out that everything about the Affordable Health Care Act and Obamacare was a lie. The American people are upset with this. So thank goodness that Donald Trump is going to get rid of it, because it is awful and people should not be being forced to pay such high amounts for health care or pay a tax if they don't comply. So good job, Donald Trump. And this concludes our Donald Trump's most epic tweets of the week. Stay tuned, guys, because Donald is always churning them out on Twitter. This is Millie Weaver signing off for Infowars.com.